I don't think I've been told. We once, they misread something and gave tickets we shouldn't get. One of the things I say on the campaign trails, on the living proof, you don't have to be young and skinny to do a lot of bicycling. And so a lot of my running errands, even downtown or whatever, is bicycle. But cars are an important part of the way we live at this time. And parking control should be about making the streets free where they need to be, providing parking spaces when needed to be. Parking control should not be about making money for a private contractor, and it should not even be driven by whatever revenues it produces for the city. So we need to, by definition, if something is predatory, that ain't good. And we need to, whether we can tell them to lay off to a particular time, or just that this is not what it's about, and if somebody is doing it again and again, that's not what we want, and we're not going to be countenancing it. Again, there was a question about the police and some police and their involvement with parking. So things need to be reasonable, and it's not. We need if we need them to not be parked there at 4 o'clock, it's so that street is available for other purposes. It's not to put money in some towing company's pocket.
Thank you. Now, we did talk a little bit earlier about increasing and supporting commercial development in the district. One questioner wants to know how you would plan to support existing small businesses in the district, and if are there particular challenges faced by small businesses in the 10th district, and how would you address them as a council person? And I guess we'll begin with Mr. Van Babel.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously, small business, the majority of these people are entrepreneurs, and I feel like, getting back to when I mentioned business earlier, you really have to focus on what's there and expand upon it. We have great business incubators within the city. We've got biotech incubators, we have entrepreneurial incubators. University of Baltimore participates in an incubator project, the Main Streets program. So whether or not a business comes through a program like that, small business by nature faces more obstacles than a big box business or something that's corporate or something that is more of a chain or a franchise. So I think any programs that are in place that we can support to help sustain small business, because small business is the core of communities. I mean, you look over in areas like Federal Hill, their Main Street, they have some booming business. I think there's a great opportunity in a lot of neighborhoods in District 10 for small business corridors. Now, obviously, they're not going to be the same as Federal Hill, but when you have a Washington Village and you have areas like B&O and Carroll Park, you have to utilize what's around you and make the best resources for them. Bill was talking earlier about biking frequently, making these things accessible. Having a good plan in place so that parking's accessible, so that there's walkability, biking, so that they're accessible businesses, so that they have the opportunity to succeed, not just financially, not just with opportunity of where they're placed, but their accessibility for residents trying to support a small business, a local business within their community.
Thank you.
I mentioned before that I favor, if possible, organic development of things rather than a total plan of we're going to take these acres and do so and so, and it's going to be the salvation of a great area. Organic type things. So, and we've got to get back to my property tax issue, but also just encouraging people to shop local and everything. I have a mailing going out that has a picture of me at the new bakery on Washington Boulevard, which unfortunately I'm patronizing a bit too much, but it's a delightful new place. We have a new sweet shop again on the block, and they just opened this week, and I said to them, how'd you get here? And it was word of mouth. Next to the bakery, there's a pancake and chicken, the dumplings and chicken place that's coming in. Right next to this, the Washington Boulevard near Scott Street. Apparently they're friends with those people and those people knew they were looking for a spot to do a sweet cafe. And they said, oh, there's a spot on our next block, and that sort of type thing. So letting things develop by networks and encouraging that rather than lots of tax credits and cuts for big businesses. So making things happen, we do have a Main Street there, working with Main Streets, and there's a number of Main Street communities in the district. And by getting more money in the pockets of our folks, given that we have lots of people without a lot of money, there's that. And also, maybe far afield, but trying to divert some of the money that's spent on public education to try to encourage diverting the money that's spent on booze and cigarettes into spending money on other, on shops that provide other things.
Thank you. Ms. White?
I've noticed something in the development of business today. Business cycles tend to go in fits and starts, and they're cyclical in nature. One minute you have a certain commodity, a certain product that everybody wants, is doing very well, and then later on, a few years later, you have something that nobody wants anymore. What I see happening is that you went from your small business, your specialty shop, and all of that got mainstreamed into larger businesses. And then when the economy broke, there was no one around with those skills to take the brunt and address those issues and go back down to the smaller business and meet the needs of the community, because the needs of the community were still there. But the larger businesses who were failing were no longer able to meet the needs. And since everyone relied on larger businesses, no one had the skills when the economy failed, and those still products and services had to be provided to people who still needed them. I think if we educate people who have various skills, we allow them to come to the table with their proposals and give them grants to start their businesses, to provide the same needs that were provided once before by smaller businesses, then taken over by the larger businesses, I think we have a win-win situation. You have an entrepreneur who has a skill that are meeting the needs of the community, and without the pressure of having to go to the larger business and those products or services not being available because the larger business doesn't have any money to service the community anymore. So that's what I think we should do.
I think we'll take 2 or 3 more questions, and then we'll begin our closing remarks. Beginning with Mr. Marker. In your opinion, are there ways of helping poor communities remain stable and pleasant to live in rather than spiraling into physical blight?
Yes. Number one, not ignoring them. Making sure the officials who represent them ardently do so. I have not been, my community was recently added to the 10th district. But from going around and knocking on now close to 2,000 doors, it is my impression that the representation this district has, which is not all the poor, whatever exactly word to use, but has a lot of people who aren't rich, let's put it that way. It seems fairly clear that this district does not feel that it's been represented well. If I'm the councilman, the rest of the city's gonna know there's a part of the city that's that's south of the inner harbor, and south of Locust Point. So getting out there, equal treatment, stopping the subsidization that I talked about of rich by the poor. It's just obscene when you think about the way it works out. To do that, and then rendering more services, while also making sure that individuals take responsibility for what they do. Society, we have lots of problems in our society. for society as a whole, we need to take responsibility and try to help people. I used to be they did a lot of child in need assistance representation. That's whether kids should be taken away from their parents. I don't know if I've mentioned I'm an attorney. I'm not sure if I've said that. But individuals, we also need to encourage individuals and work with individuals that they have opportunities and that they should grab onto that. So there's no one simple magic bullet other than taking off the burdens that our society has done. And one piece of it is when is it time to stop doing so much of the city programs being downtown focused and reach out to everyone.
Thank you. Ms. White?
Would you please restate your question?
I'm sorry. The question?
There was a part of it I did not hear.
Are there ways of helping poorer communities remain stable and pleasant to live in rather than spiraling into physical blight?
Are there ways of doing it?
Or specifically, what ways would you propose, I guess, is the follow-up.
Okay. Yes, there are ways. One of the things that Ms. Marker just said was that you need to not ignore our communities and our neighborhoods. There are people here, and our lives hold value, regardless of our financial status or socio-political status. And the society at large and our government needs to recognize that. You don't disregard the needs of the people simply because they are not able to, at this time, contribute to society in the same way as others. And because of the economy, there's an increasing number that's been added to that pool. And I think equalization has begun one way or another, simply because you have people who once thought they were stable, who are in some states living in tents. And once they thought they had their slice of the American pie, American dream, and it's no longer existing for them. So you have all your norms, all your mores and norms that you thought made you a better person. And you people found out that it was just something that improved their financial status. The status of a person is within them, internally, not externally. And I think that the government needs to realize that and stop disregarding people. We are some of the hardest working people I know. And while I can understand what happened this weekend with the Grand Prix and the motivation behind it, it inconvenienced the people in the south side of the city the most. And we really needed to get to work. And I don't think we should have been inconvenienced that way.
Thank you.
That's just my opinion.